2/3 of Americans are at risk to experience blackout. You could be one of them, sitting in the dark and cold for hours, for days, maybe even weeks. Are you ready to protect your family? You could be with Patriot Power Solar Generator 2000X. Folks say this new solar generator from 4Patriots is worth its weight in gold. Why? Because this generator has double the capacity and is expandable so you can run the big appliances like your fridge even longer. Or other devices like an electric blanket, microwave, RV air conditioner, or even an electric wheelchair. You also get 12 outlets, including 4 AC outlets, so you can power more devices at once, and 2 USB-C outlets, which can charge your phone 20 times faster than a regular plug. Best of all, this new solar generator is fume-free, safe to use inside, and never needs gas, ever. Over 150,000 Americans trust Patriot Power generators. Go to 4patriots.com/VTTGW to get your solar generator now. You'll even get a solar panel included free.
Hey, what's up, Mental Health Nation? Hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. Of course, it's Wednesday night here in Italy. Super happy. Lynn's with me today. How you doing today, Lynn? I know you've been busy lately.
Yeah, what's up? I've been busy, working. I got to travel. Like, even though I work from home, like, it's kind of give and take. I travel for work a lot. So, in those times I'm really busy trying to squeeze everything in. But I'm here back at home chilling. So, it's that finally in the 70s. The weather has been really gloomy in Florida.
Yeah,
and
I heard
so
that.
if you ever lived in Southern California or San Diego, I would compare it to June gloom. So in June, it gets really, really gloomy and like cold, like around 60s degrees, stuff like that. Yeah. And the marine layer was creeping in, and I was like, oh, it feels like San Diego. But now it still kind of feels like San Diego too, because the weather's getting nice. So
Yeah.
I always compare everything to San Diego because they have the best weather.
Yeah, spring. Spring's around the corner. Here in Italy, I guess it starts early. I got out here at the second week of December, and the temperature running around 58, 60 degrees almost every day. Now they're running 63, 62, 64 almost every day. We've had some days with rain. It was really, really windy today. So if you may don't know anything about Naples, we're kind of sitting in a big valley here. Of course, you got the volcano, Mount Vesuvius. Not smoking, so that's good. I think the last time it erupted was during World War II. So that's pretty cool. But hey, listen up. Glad everybody was tuning in today. It's gonna be a good show. Gonna kind of slap around stigma a little bit there with mental health today. But hey, listen, if you missed the podcast, it's no problem. You can catch it on Wreaths Across America Radio. They replay the podcast at Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. It's super easy to find. Just download your favorite app, whether it's the Tunein app, the iHeart Radio app, or the Audacy app. Search for Wreaths Across America Radio, and listen not only to my great program, but all the great programs they have. And up there, you'll see the QR code with WAA on it. You can click on that, and with that, you can go to Wreaths Across America website, where you can donate $5 to ensure that a wreath gets placed on the tomb of past soldiers and veterans who've gone on. Super program. I'm super excited and always so thankful to be part of them. But it is March. Spring is around the corner. We know I grew up in the Midwest, so we always have tornadoes and storms and stuff. And it's always good to be prepared no matter what. And just like the advertisement said before, you go out to 4patriots.com, check out their website. They got a lot of great stuff out there. You don't have to order anything. But if you do decide to, use that code down at the bottom and save yourself some money. And along with that, my Mental Health Warrior book is still out there. You can go ahead and get yours ordered in. I got about 500 copies left. I'll have to decide after that if I want to do another contract. Yeah, there you go. That's a good-looking book. With Able or not, and I'll decide that after those books are sold out, or if I will even do a second publishing or not. I haven't decided yet. But with that, Lynn, what's going on with the Revenant Warriors?
So
I know you guys got a big march coming up soon, right?
Yes. So my event, if anybody wants to come out and hang out with me, March 23rd, 2024, Jack's Beach is our huge event. So at this point, I checked this morning, we had like 225 veterans signed up. We have 20 volunteers. Awesome. And our hike is known for like people coming all over the nation. Monica's coming to my hike from Hollywood. But yeah, so I anticipate having 250 to 300 veterans out. And it's crunch time. So literally, oh my God, it's less than 20 days away. I have this little group chat of everyone who's staying at my house, and one of the girls was like, how's everybody doing? And I said, I'm kind of panicking and dying inside.
Yeah.
I'm like, imagine putting on this huge event for like 300 people and I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Like, there's no pressure, but like pressure, you know? So
Yeah.
I literally just had a meeting with my local VFW. They're super excited. And that's what it's about, getting the support from the veteran
Oh,
community out
absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad to have that support out there from our veteran community. So the VFW is going to make us breakfast. They're going to do breakfast casseroles,
Oh, nice.
do a little vegan bar for our vegans with oatmeal and like fruits and like toppings and stuff like that, with oat milk and soy milk. Because we do have the vegans come out to Florida.
Sure. That's okay.
We have a lunch stop at Bricks, and we're gonna serve burgers, vegan burgers, chicken tenders, and we're just gonna have a great time. It's gonna be on the beach. I just ordered my merch. These are what we call hike tags.
Yeah.
So it's probably backwards, but
That's okay.
these are our hike tags. This is Jack's Beach Hike.
Yeah.
Woo! There's a lot going on. And you know what? I also have family from Texas coming in on Monday.
Okay.
So
Nice.
I have to juggle work, my family, Irreverent Warriors. So March is like super busy, but I'm glad to have it. I'm glad to, be able to be part of such a huge thing that helps prevent veteran suicide.
That's the most important thing is staying busy, right? Because that's a hard thing, because when you have an idle mind, it can drift, right?
Mhm.
And so if you're constantly staying busy or constantly doing stuff, it's getting yourself into that routine. And Len, I know with the Reverend Warrior, with what you do with them, and the extra duties that you took on with it is such a great thing. And no telling how many hundreds and thousands of lives that program has saved just by getting veterans together, because you shouldn't be alone nowadays. I mean, with
Right.
social media and everything going on, I mean, if you should go out and find like-minded friends, and we know with veterans, they can find it on Veterans Trash Talk. I mean, or even here with the Mental Health Warrior. I mean, we're all here together.
So like today is one of my busiest days of the week, because when I'm at home, I do the podcast with you. I work full time, and then after the podcast, every Wednesday there's a networking event for veterans. So it's called Vets on Tap. And they used to be just like a drinking club going to different bars. But what they found was that these veterans were in need and, needed to meet professionals. So professionals or nonprofits would come there, hiring managers come, just networking all around the entire Duval County.
Yeah.
In Florida. And I'm not sure if anyone else has that in their area, but if you do, I highly suggest, find one of those, veteran networking places where you just get together, have a drink. You don't have to drink beer. You could drink water,
Sure.
And then like find out who is in your community, because networking is a big deal.
It's a huge deal, and it's amazing with the Veteran Network how we have, because we talk about this. No one should suffer in silence. Nobody should suffer alone. But you have to own responsibility, and you have to take that first step to go out and ask the question and look around and find that group. And I talk about this in the minutes, is you need to change your perspective or change your mind. So I talked about this 2 days ago with my TBI injury, right? I had to learn how to reprogram my brain. You can do it from an injury or suffering from trauma, but it's not easy and it takes a lot of work. But once you get it, and once you're able to do that, it makes things a lot better. And I learned things at the Traumatic Brain Injury Clinic, the Intrepid Center there at Fort Belvoir, techniques to do that. Will I say every day's great and awesome? No. But I will tell you, they get less and less and less as time goes on. And, I've kind of brought that up as a theme this week, is, looking at yourself and accepting yourself for who you are and all your faults and all the other things. And so I posted on Instagram today and all my social media is a little meme, and it had a lot of meaning to myself. And that was my minute today was about it. Hey, Jeremy, thanks for tuning in. Glad you're here. But this is what it said. If you didn't see it, go out there and follow me at Cliff and Bauman. You just see that. You follow me or Pacific Tita. You follow her and see all the posts. But, I said, this is what I posted. It said this: have enough courage to fall in love with the parts of yourself the world has taught you not to accept. And that really hit home to me because when I was younger, going back to school age, when I was in high school, one, I was really skinny. I think when I joined the military, I weighed 112 pounds. I had kind of pointed ears. I don't know if they're not really pointed, but they were kind of pointed,
Maybe
I
when
wrestled. I wrestled, but kids would tease me and call me Spock, and from Star Trek. And I had one tooth that was crooked when my wisdom teeth come in. I didn't have the money to get it cut out, and this stuff like that. And those things really bothered me, and it took me a long time to learn that I shouldn't even freaking cared, right? And I think for men, and more so for women, that's a hard thing to accept, and that's a hard corner to take. And I think with a veteran, especially if you suffered sexual trauma, if you suffered from PTSD and other things, if you had those other things also going on in your past, it makes your recovery a little bit tougher. What do you think, Lynn?
Well, I think like as far as accepting yourself for what people think or what society says that you should be this, you should be that, you should look this way. I think a lot of it has to do with your appearance, right? So accepting your appearance and how you are definitely comes from within. Like you have to definitely look inside because it's so hard to go against, media standards. Like obviously, like look at me, I'm dye my hair, I do makeup, I make sure that my appearance is to par to what society says that I should present myself as a woman, right? And I think as women, a lot of that really drives deep in us. A lot of eating disorders come out from that, and I think that's just terrible, So
especially in teenage girls, you see that a lot.
It's so difficult. I mean, yeah, especially when you're a teenager and you're going through these hormone changes and you get pimples and all this stuff. Your voice probably cracks. You sound weird, So it definitely takes time to look within yourself and to just not care what anybody else thinks and to just love yourself. That takes a lot of work.
It does take a lot of work.
I mean, I wish I knew what I knew back then when I was a teenager or even a young adult. Like, who cares what people think, right?
Yeah.
But then also when I think about accepting things about myself or just being self-aware about things that I hate about myself, there's people compare themselves to other people. So comparing yourself to somebody else, probably, that's not healthy. So, and it's actually ridiculous because there's only one you. And so it's not worth it to compare yourself to other people.
And that was a tough lesson for me to learn. And then, and then when I got older and I started having issues, it just compounded it. And then you finally get to the point where I did, especially after my suicide attempt, where I just didn't give a flip anymore. I didn't care what you thought about it. To me, it didn't matter at that point. But it should never take somebody to get to the point I was to get to that point, right? And, one thing I teach my kids is being acceptant of who they are, accepting their little flaws that they have, but that they see in themselves, not that I see, that they see, and getting them to accept that it's okay. It's interesting. So Lloyd volunteered at his school to be part of safety patrol. And
yes.
Right. So he puts the vest on and he makes sure that the kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing, right? And of course, the first day, all the kids are teasing him. Oh, well, you're just a stop sign and all you're this. So Lloyd come home and he was a little bit upset because he liked doing it. And I said,
side note, I kind of gave my daughter a hard time. And I was like, why do you want to do this for free? It's a child labor. Why don't they hire more adults to do the traffic for the kids? I'm like, I'm not understanding why they want kids to do this. And then I have to drop her off at 6:30 in the morning. And then I pick her up later than usual. And so I kind of did that, but she's so strong. She's like, Mom, I want to do it. It gives me more responsibility. I feel like I'm helping, the community. Fine. I guess she gets that from me.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so Lloyd, I told Lloyd, I said, look, so what's your job? What were you doing? Oh, well, if they're running, if they're not doing that, I tell them to stop at this. I said, so you are a stop sign. And so they just pointed out the obvious. Mm-hmm. And I said, so next time somebody says something, look at them and say, I've heard that 1,000 times. If you're going to tease me, come up with new material, really, man. I mean, really. Don't tease me with something 20,000 other people. And Lloyd was laughing so hard when I told him that. I said, there you go. I said, they did not have the courage to be on safety patrol like you, right? You chose to do that. You get up early. You leave for school early, because here we live here on base. So he rides his bike back for school with his friends. I don't take him anymore.
You have to have good grades. You have to be in good standings, to be able to do the whole safety patrol thing. So you have to work hard to work hard.
Yeah.
That's what they're teaching these kids. So
yeah. And to have that responsibility. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. That's something he wanted to do and he was excited about. But I told him, I said, in life, there's always going to be people who will never step up. And they will always say bad things to try to get you to quit because they're too lazy to do it. I said, don't ever let them do it. And of course, it's not huge. It's not like a huge school here. I mean, of course, there's all grades in this one little compound. You know how DOD schools are. And, so he enjoys it. But today he came home. He didn't do safety patrol today. And I said, hey, Lloyd, how come you didn't stay late for school? And he was just tired. He just mentally just couldn't deal with it. And I told him, well, that's okay, because we get that way, right? We talked about that last week on the show, taking mental health days or just knowing when you need a break or step back. And I, of course, being a dad that I am, I said, well, that's okay. But remember, tired or not, you still have a responsibility of something that you chose to do. And so I'll give you today. That's fine. But you really need to at least do it in the mornings or in the afternoon.
Yeah. And that's what I teach my kids. Like, if you committed to something, see it through from start to finish. Even if you get tired of it, okay, maybe take that day off, like you said, but you need to complete it throughout the entire thing. I enrolled you in sports. You're going to do it the entire time because that's what you wanted to do. You're in safety patrol. You got to wake up every single day early to get to safety patrol.
Yeah.
It's a commitment. And I think it starts right now at home, especially when they're young, to teach them how to commit to something, because it literally follows people through their young adulthood.
Right? That's right.
And when you go to college, how many people have you seen? They don't have a degree plan, or they don't have the major. They're undecided, right? Or in the Navy, they call it undesignated. They don't know what rate or what job they wanted to take.
Yeah.
Like, just pick one and then stick with it. And so I had to learn that the hard way. I had to pick a major, accounting, and I absolutely hated it. But I was like, okay, you know what? I picked it. I'm sticking with it, and I'm going to do this and finish. Just finish. So definitely.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I still that in junior. Of course, he took that to college, and of course, he goes to Hampton-Sydney, which is the 10th oldest private college in America. Absolutely great school. And he's really blossomed down there. But, in the couple of talks I had him, he's like, hey, Dad, at least you made me stick through it. And it's funny because I went down there and did a speaking event back in November, and we were having kind of a dinner with the lady who brought me in, and Junior was there and stuff. And she's a student counselor. I forget her title's more than that, but I forget exactly what it is. And I looked at Junior in the we're having a conversation like we are, Lynn, right? And I looked at the instructor. I said, listen to this. I whispered it to her. I said, watch this. And I looked at Junior and I said, Junior, what's the one thing that Dad doesn't have? And he didn't miss a beat. And he looked at her and says, Dad don't have a gray area. I know that I'm supposed to do A. If I don't do A, I know exactly what's going to happen. And that is B. Dad doesn't. I don't change my mind. Lloyd even knows that. If your responsibility is to do A, and you don't do it, you know what the repercussions of that is. And that's how I was raised, and that's how I raised my boys. And she was shocked by that. She was like, he said that and didn't even miss a beat. I said, yeah, because he's learned that ever since he was a little kid. And however you define it, or however that works for your family, I'm sure everybody does that. And you did that too, Lynn. You just talked about it. It's important to make kids accountable when they're younger, because it can have a profound effect on their life. And it goes back to the confidence level. It goes back to, cause and effect. Exactly, Jeremy. What we just talked about early on about, learning to love yourself, no matter what other people see or think. It's building that confidence in the kids at a young age.
Yeah, most definitely. And then especially, like, I think people, when you go through a lot of trauma or you go through a lot of hard stuff, it's easy to hate yourself. Because of the way it made you feel and because how you feel about it. But one thing that people have to realize is that it's happened. It already happened. There's nothing you can do about it now. It's in the past. So you need to, gather up your energy and move forward. Use it as strength to go forward.
And it's okay to learn something from your kids. I think sometimes as adults, we think kids are completely ignorant and stuff, but kids are pretty resilient in fact, and you can learn some things from your kid because like with Lloyd and we do a lot of projects and stuff together. Is I always ask him and said, how can I do this better, or how can we do this differently? And sometimes he comes up with a good idea I wouldn't even thought about, even at 9 years old. And it's just another way to challenge him.
It's definitely like a thought process when you're doing a decision making, right? A decision making thought process, and a lot of people sometimes don't have that thought process from A to B. If I do this, this is what happens. And I remember back in my day, like I'm not old.
I don't tell you back in my day.
There was a class that
well, you are 40 now, Elaine.
I am 40 now. High school was 22 years ago.
I turned 54 this year. So
and it's funny because I still remember some things like ninth grade. I had a class called decision making. Do I know what it entailed? No, but I'm pretty sure it taught us how to make those right and wrong decisions, or how to come to a conclusion. Be like, here, this is the decision I'm making, and I'm sticking to it. So
the two best classes that I took in high school, I'm going to date myself this, but whatever, was typing. And I took typing because all the girls took typing.
I took that in 7th grade.
So I took typing in my freshman year, and which as I got older, that was the best class ever because it taught me how to hold my keys properly on the keyboard, and I could type fairly fast.
ASDF, all that. But I actually in middle school they made us take it in 6th and 7th grade. So we had to be at least like intermediate typing. And then you had to know how to put the paper in and
set the margins, the tab, all that stuff.
And the funny thing, okay, so off subject or on subject. Last week when I was on travel and doing a review for an office, I was like, oh my God, they had papers from like the 70s and they were like yellow. And I could tell it was from a typewriter. And then there's one guy who's younger than me. I'm like in the middle, and then everyone else is like in their 50s or 60s. And I looked to this guy, I was like, hey, Brandon, do you know where this paper came or this lettering came from? I said, it's a typewriter. Have you ever used one? And he goes, yeah, I think so. I said, have you ever taken a typewriting class? Because he was born in the 90s, but that's so funny. They had their bylaws and all that. It was never transferred to a computer.
Yeah.
And it was from the 70s.
Yeah.
And they would type it, and they had it in this book. And in this book, they glued it to the pages. I'm like, wow, it's just so ancient.
It's amazing how fast. Well, my grandmother, she passed away a long time ago, but she worked, okay. I'm going to tell a little family story here, and don't judge us. My grandmother got in trouble. This is back in the 40s, I think, for embezzling money out of a bank. They couldn't figure out how she was doing it. She was living outside of her means. And so to avoid jail, she had to show them how she was doing it because they couldn't figure it out. She this is back before computers, obviously. Well, during that time frame and prison work release program and all that, she went to work for AT&T. And so she used to be the person that would plug in the phone calls. You see on the movies and stuff. Yeah. Yep. And then she got a good retirement from AT&T, but all started with her embezzling money out of a bank. So it's kind of fun.
Oh my gosh. I remember having to dial 0 if I didn't know a phone number, and dial 0 for the operator. And I think I also dialed 0 one time for directions.
Yeah. Well, remember, I don't know. I remember when I was a kid that they came out with the party lines and then call waiting and all that stuff.
That was in the 90s. You were a kid?
Yeah, I was in my 20s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember the 90s. Well, I was actually a kid, unsupervised, right? Because I grew up in the 80s and 90s. I'm a latchkey kid, So yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible. The dial-up internet. All of that.
Our parents, I grew up in the 70s. So, I mean, I was born in
Yeah.
1970. So, our parents would throw us outside and come back when the lights come on.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
when
it's
it's
funny because, here in Italy, because, we're on a base, obviously it's safe. Lloyd will do that. He'll get home from school and sometimes he'll disappear. Of course, he doesn't have in America, he had a watch on him, like an iWatch.
right.
And so if I needed him, I could track him and call him, but they don't have that here. So he has nothing. And so he leaves the house and he's running around. Of course, I could go find him on base if I needed to. It's not a very big base. But it's kind of like when I was a kid, and then they show up, get a drink of water, and go back outside and play.
Right. Well, our parents told us don't come in and out. One.
Yeah.
They were like, you don't come in and out the house. Pick one. Stay inside or go outside.
Yeah.
But I think living on base too for kids is really beneficial because they're around kids their age that they're going to school with, so whereas I mean right now I'm living in a neighborhood and there's not a lot of children on my neighborhood. So yeah, Lloyd's very fortunate to have those friends.
Yeah, he really is. In Virginia, our old neighborhood before we built our new house was kind of like that, Lynn. They had a couple of kids, but not really. The new neighborhood where we built our new house before we came to Italy, he had like 4 boys his same age, and they would run around and play all together after school. And you could always tell where they were at because all the bikes were in the driveway. And it was kind of nice because we kind of grew up that way. We would sit around and modify our bikes, and of course, Evel Knievel was big back then, and we'd always build ramps and jump stuff, and this did all kinds of stuff. And I think here on base is kind of nice because and you see girls out running around playing, and it's funny. It kind of reminds me when I was a kid. It's a shame that kids can't do that nowadays and have the ability just to be kids. I know we're going off topic here, but it's still important.
I mean, we started off talking about our kids in safety patrol. So
yeah.
you gotta accept yourself for who you are.
That's right. That's right. I know Germany's talking about an 8-wire phone, so cord. So yep. So that's, and it's funny because we have a in-house phone here, so Lloyd can call his mom or call his friends in their houses and stuff. So we have a landline. Of course, in the States we didn't have a landline in our house. We didn't even wire it for a landline when we built it because nobody uses them there. But here it's still a thing.
It's still a thing there, really?
Yeah.
So crazy. I guess it's just a different culture, different stuff.
Yeah, so we can have a landline or ISDN line if we want to use the internet. Hey, Brian, glad you finally got in. You're late. Go stand in the corner for 10 minutes.
So when you did ask about the things that you hate about yourself or that society says you should hate about yourself, I Googled it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff is actually like mental health stuff, like the stuff. There's this article that says stuff I hate about myself, right? And so he lists 10 things. The first one was comparison, which we talked about, comparing yourself to other people. The second one he says is impatience, or too much patience. People hate that they don't have any patience, or some people hate that they're way too patient because then they get stepped all over.
Yeah, I'm pretty impatient sometimes. I'm more patient now than I've ever been, but
I'm pretty patient and I can tolerate a lot. So I don't think I hate that about myself though. Because
I can't. In my 20s and 30s and early, I didn't tolerate a whole lot, but I grew out of that. I think everybody does.
The third one listed was lack of forgiveness. Some people hold grudges.
Oh, yes.
Lifelong grudges. And I think a lot of us can resonate with that. Like, okay, I have a grudge from school age in middle school. And
I think women have a tendency to hold grudges longer than men sometimes. I really do.
Right. And I see this girl online and we have mutual friends, but we've never we never like say anything to each other anymore. And I guess it's just not a grudge. It's just like, oh, I don't care for this person. It's whatever, you know. The next one is temper.
Yeah, I used to have a bad temper.
I used to have a bad temper. Then the big one, the next one, number 5, was appearance, which we talked about.
Yeah.
Number 6 is people pleasing. So some people hate that they are people pleasers.
Yeah.
The next number 7 says
I
organize.
can see that because you lose yourself, right? If you're constantly a people pleaser, you kind of lose yourself in that process.
Right.
So
And
I've been told.
well, this one says, I care too much about what other people think of me. If people are sitting right with me, then I'll let them know. Even if they are the ones in wrong, I will put time and effort to understand their problems or fix the problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not a people pleaser.
Yeah. At work, I have to be.
Yes, yes.
Organized. Some people are not organized, or some people are way too organized. OCD. Here's one. Number 8 says, I get easily distracted, and I don't like that about myself.
Yeah.
So you could be easily distracted or attention span. And I would say, like, even social media has left our attention span very short.
It has.
Yeah.
Seconds.
I had to do a training yesterday. It was 2 hours. And after the 1 hour I checked out, I was like, I can't do this. I can't do it.
Well, it's true because people. It's funny. You observe, there's always people with their cell phones, right, and always looking at it, and it's interesting. But I've noticed here in Italy they do have the cell phones, but if you go out in downtown areas, you see people just walking around and talking or sitting in the cafe. They're not all buried in their phones, so it is a little bit different.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it's just like time and place and different culture. You can the focusing part is where I have a hard time. If I'm
hey, before you go on real quick, hey Brian, we didn't change the time of the show, but because I'm in Italy and it's 6 hours ahead, sometimes we start early because I'm tired and I want to go to bed.
Yeah.
But you can always rewatch it on Wreaths Across America Radio on Fridays and Sundays. You can do that. So did we go through all 10 or is there one more?
No, there's 2 more.
2 more, okay.
So one is stubbornness. It says, this one says, I stand up for what I believe in, and I like to think that I'm open-minded. However, I get passionate about a topic and often go out of my way to get my point across. In some cases, I disagree just to prevent giving in or avoid admitting that I am wrong.
I will admit, I'll confess, I've had that problem or two in my military career. I think some veterans probably would agree with that.
Yeah. I see this a lot online.
Yeah. Did you see
last week?
Did you see this? I saw this video the other day that this kid was running his mouth, keyboard warrior, right? I want to slash your tires. I want to do all this. This guy, he's a pretty big guy, printed off everything on a sheet and went to the kid's work and confronted him. And the kid he wasn't disrespectful or nothing. And he says, hey, are you signed so-and-so, so-and-so? And the kid's like, yeah. And he's like, he held up this whole thing, says, you said you're going to cut my tires.
Number 1, you're going to cut my tires.
Yeah. And the kid's whole demeanor changed. Because one thing I always tell Junior, and I tell Lloyd the same thing. If they're running their mouth on social media, go confront them face to face because the story will probably change.
What?
And when I was a supervisor, if I had problems with people, I wouldn't listen to her or him or them or whatever. I'd put them all in the same room and let them talk it out. Because it's amazing how the story changes when they're face to face.
I think I talked about this before, but I always tell my kids, don't say anything online that you don't want to say to their face.
Yeah.
Because I will drive you to that house and you will say it to their face and to their parents' face.
Yeah.
So if you can't say it to somebody's face, don't say it online.
Yeah,
no.
Absolutely. No. All right, what's the next one?
Okay, the last one is delegation. Some people, I don't have this issue. I love delegating. It's my favorite thing to do because it gives me less work. But some people just hate telling other people what to do. They just have a hard time, and it feels uncomfortable. They feel awkward telling.
Or they don't trust them if they don't think that they automatically think they can do it wrong. So I'm just going to do it myself.
Right, exactly. So it definitely comes into play if you're in a leadership role and you're part of a team and then you don't want to delegate. It makes it so difficult for you.
Yeah.
So
I ran in that warrant officers are pretty good about delegating, but I ran into a lot of O-grade officers who have an issue with delegation because they're fearful of repercussions, and so I'll just take care of it myself, or I'll just do that. And that's maybe more junior officers do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that's more of a control thing. Like, oh, I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't have trust in my people, so let me
Yeah.
do it myself because I know that I'm right and blah blah blah. So I think it's kind of a control thing, and you have a hard time trusting people. That has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, it does.
For me, like with my team, like, I do Irreverent Warriors, and I have a team of at least 10 right now because people are like, how can I help? How can I help? Absolutely. Please come help me.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
please come help me. The more the merrier,
Yeah. Yeah. I have no, of course, I'm a stay-at-home dad right now. So, I do Pilates, and then Monday and Fridays, Pilates, Tuesday, Thursdays, lifting weights, Wednesdays running. And then I take care of all the house and cooking. I enjoy that. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. So I don't have to really delegate anything unless Lloyd walks in. I make him, delegate him and make his bed or something, which he's supposed to do every morning. But
in my neighborhood, I live in an HOA neighborhood, and there's like a little sign or a marquee thing where they change it every day, and they wear, not every day, but every week they have a new quote. And last week the quote was, "You can do everything, you can do anything, just not everything."
Yeah, that's a good quote.
You can do anything, just not everything. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I know, I get it.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes for people is they think they have to do everything, and you don't, and it's okay to let something go and not do it till tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a big one I had to learn, because I would literally stay up and clean the house before, and of course I didn't understand what I was doing that, but a lot of it had to do with my TBI injury and ADHD, and I didn't understand all that. But back before I got diagnosed, but yeah, I just drive me crazy, and then I'd start doing one thing and do another and do another and do another,
Yeah.
and that was crazy.
So I want to kind of talk about the TBI thing. I'm gonna try to get this guy on our show, but
Okay.
we have a program, and I'm flipping. You see, I'm old. I'm like old school by the fact that this is a kind of like a Rolodex, but it's for business cards.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, like when you're networking, you gotta have like a booklet of business cards. So at University Florida Health, there is a little section, a little clinic just for TBIs and brain injuries. So what people don't understand is if you've ever been knocked out, if you ever fell on your head, if you ever had a concussion, that is a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
And what they do, and this entire program has been funded by Greg Sensi, Lieutenant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he gave them millions of dollars to fund this program. It's for veterans and first responders. And what happens is you go in there and they give you this full comprehensive evaluation. And then they also give you that evaluation to take back to your primary care manager, and it's free.
Wow.
Absolutely free. And if you qualify for their program, they're going to do this whole like 3 to 5 day thing where they're doing tests and doing all kinds of things. And then like you'll come back with a full comprehensive plan on how to work with your certain injury, your TBI.
Yep.
They fly veterans out for free. They just flew a veteran out from Puerto Rico to do that program. And so I don't think a lot of people know about it, but it's at University of Florida Health. And yes, and it's called the Brain Wellness Program. So if you out there listening.
Yep. And I think there's 6 Intrepid centers across the United States that take care of, I think, active duty. And there were some guys that retired. I could still go there and be seen if I was still in Virginia there, even though I had retired, the Intrepid Center. But it was the same thing. You go in, they look at your medical record, they look at the incident, you go through a screening process, and once they determine that yes, you do have a TBI, and then you accept it into the clinic, and then they do a whole bunch of testing.
That's awesome.
And it was like you said, it's about I want to say it's about 5 days of testing I did off and on. And the one amazing thing that is I went in to see the eye doctor, and because my vision was affected, is then I had to go. I called it the eye gym. And so I would go into a different part after she diagnosed me, and I would have to like do all these different programs. And the interesting thing is I did that for months, is it actually improved my eyes, because your eyes are a muscle, and people are always like this, and then they get reading glasses, and they wear the reading glasses more and more. They're not exercising your eye. And I didn't think that you could
Interesting.
ever, yeah. And so I would have to look at different shapes and track them. And I mean, my eyes felt like they ran a marathon at the end. They were tired.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And so, of course, then when you're leaving the TBI, they run all the tests again to see if you had improvement. And whatever, I started out like a 12. And then by the time I was done, it was like 17 or 18. And she was shocked at how much my eyes had improved. But that's a measurement they do that they
Yeah.
have to.
That's amazing.
And
I didn't know that could happen.
yeah, and so apparently there's programs out there you can get, and it exercises your eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this program with University of Florida Health, it's unfortunately it doesn't extend to spouses, because I asked the guy, I was like, can you guys do like military spouses or even veteran spouses? Because one of my sisters got in a traumatic car accident and was unconscious and in a coma for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then so now like she has a TBI, and doctors keep telling her, "Oh, nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you."
Right, post-concussion syndrome and all kinds of stuff.
She has like seizures now, and
wow.
Yeah, and I was like, "Can you guys treat her?" And they're like, "Unfortunately, no. It's for anybody who can get a DD-214, active duty reservists, guard, veterans, retired, and first responders. So like firefighters, policemen, EMTs. So yeah."
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, hey, we're going to wrap this up. It's getting kind of late. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Len, do you have any final words before we jump off?
I don't have any final words. I just want to wrap it up and say, try to love yourself. I know it's difficult.
Yes.
But you can do it. Love yourself, love inside and out. And don't worry about what other people think about you.
Yeah, don't worry about that at all.
Yeah.
But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's been a great show. I hope you took something out of it. It's very important to know what your kids are doing. It's very important to give your kids responsibilities and make them own up to that responsibilities, because one day they're going to grow up and be adults, and you want to be a responsible adult. But hey, thanks for everybody tuning in. Just remember, you can re-listen to my podcast on Wreaths Across America Radio at Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Super easy to find. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you just download your favorite app, or whether it's the Tunein app, the audio app, Audacy app, or the iHeart Radio app. Search for Wreaths Across America Radio, and not only will you find my program, but all the great programs they have out there. And then along with that, you have the WAA up there in the right corner. You can scan that with your phone to go out and donate a wreath for Wreaths Across America Radio. And Len, what's going on with VTT in the shop this week?
All right. Check out VeteranTrashTalk.com. You can find all our podcasts on there, all our merch on there. We even have a button that says funny things.
It does say funny things.
Check that button out. It's great. And then, of course, join me for my hike, irreverentwarriors.com.
That's right. And hey, everybody have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
This is a food warning. The UN warns of an unprecedented global hunger crisis. In fact, it's predicted by 2030 that 800 million folks will struggle to feed their families, which means two dangerous things for you. Number one, higher prices at the grocery store. Number two, less food available. And when panic strikes, it will be chaos, making it even harder to get the food your family needs to survive. That's why it's vital, more than ever, to have a survival food stockpile. Introducing the deluxe 3-month survival food kit from 4 Patriots. It has 688 servings of meals for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with delicious recipes like pancakes, mac and cheese, Aztec chili, and potato soup. They've even got spaghetti and lasagna. This isn't your typical survival food, and over 200,000 smart Americans agree. This is survival food that actually tastes good. But best of all, it's designed to last up to 25 years. You can stash it away and be confident that when a disaster strikes, you and your family will be ready. Go to 4patriots.com/VTT to get the deluxe 3-month survival food kit and the peace of mind you deserve.